Hey everybody, I am so excited to be here today with all of you. And today what we're going to be talking about is marriage. This is one of my favorite topics to talk about as well. I feel like I say this every day. I'm like, yay, this is so exciting. But really, this is so amazing because I know that oftentimes so many people struggle in marriage. So many times people get married, right? We have this view of how marriage is going to be. It's going to be amazing. We're going to be in love with each other all the time. Hey, Maya, nice to see you live. And we feel like it's just going to go smoothly, right? We're going to have respect for one another. We're going to have this beautiful connection. And then life happens, right? There's outside circumstances, there's children, there's running a coaching business. There's so many things that sometimes get in the way. And sometimes people get really, really challenged. Okay, cool, Maya. I see you can only be live for 10 minutes. That's cool. You're more than welcome to catch the rest on replay. There's going to be so much. I wish you could stay longer. Yeah. So oftentimes that's what happens, right? Like just life circumstances happen and things tend to kind of just not be the way they used to be, not be the way that you want them to be. Yeah, you're going to catch the replay. I'm excited. Okay. So what's really, really cool about marriage is that there's so many things that you can implement, so many ways to really uplift your marriage, to really transform it. And what I want to say is that firstly, if you are feeling challenged in your marriage, I want to first and foremost say that it is so normal. It happens in every single relationship. It happens to the people that are at the top of the coaching industry, because I know so many of us coaches, kind of look to them as like role models or, it happens really to everyone. And and the better news, the better thing about it is that there's so much that we are going to dive into today that's really going to help you transform your marriage in a really big way. I was so blessed to help a woman completely transform her marriage. She was actually on the brink of divorce when the pandemic first hit. She told me that this was her second time that she was considering, and she was completely done with being married, and she was, going to leave her husband. And thankfully she reached out to me and we worked together. She really implemented all of the tools and thankfully really saved her marriage, saved her family essentially. Cause at the time she had twin babies and, it really would have just done a lot of damage for everybody involved. And obviously there are times where, if someone is a narcissist or someone is abusive, there's a reason for professional help. And there is a reason sometimes to leave a relationship, but I believe very, very strongly, and I've seen this with quite a few of my clients that I've been blessed to help, uplift their marriage, really transform, that things really, really can change. No matter how hard it feels in the moment and how difficult it seems. So without further ado, I'm going to get into the amazing tools that are really, really going to help you transform your marriage. So the first concept that I really want to share with you is the concept of the fact that everyone talks nowadays about masculine energy and feminine energy. And it's very fascinating to me because what I've learned that, in Hasidus, in the Torah, it says that we women are actually compared to royalty. And this blew my mind when I learned this. I was like, wow, like all our husbands desire to give to us. They desire to treat us like queens, right? And what's stopping a woman in a marriage from actually feeling that way is oftentimes our own inner stuff. And I know it might seem like, oh my gosh, everything that's going on in my marriage, it's not the way I want it to be. It's totally his fault. And he's not putting in the work. But I'm telling you that when you are able to step into this, and I'm going to get into like all the details of it because it's so cool and so transformative. It really, really is going to shift things. So I want you to bear with me, hang on, hear me out, and really take it in because it really can literally change things and really, really quickly. Okay. So we as women, our soul desires to receive things. And I kind of touched on this a bit yesterday or the day before, we desire things. Our soul craves things. So our desires, our needs, everything that we want, if we want a beautiful home, if we want to go on vacation, if we want to have anything physical, anything at all that we want, is literally direct our soul saying to us, like, you need this, you deserve this, you're supposed to have this. This is what God wants for you, right? And so in the context of marriage, oftentimes, okay, tell me if this has been you ever. Oftentimes, we as women, we hold this ideal of perfection, or this ideal of what we expect a man to be and a man to do, or whatever it may be. And we tend to be overly critical, when your husband doesn't do things the way that you want it, right? Or you tend to get very, when your husband you don't have what you want in your life, you tend to complain and get very critical, right? Has this ever happened to any of you? I know this definitely happened to me earlier on in my marriage, before I really learned about this and really learned how I'm supposed to show up completely differently. I remember, gosh, I love to give just like as an example to kind of get you to understand where I'm coming from, what I'm trying to give over. I remember in the beginning of my marriage, my husband would very, very kindly do the dishes or sweep the floor. And it was, that was his way of giving to me. That was his way of showing up and treating me like the queen, right? And what would happen? I would look at the floor when he was done and it wasn't clean, like not to my standards, right? I was holding very, very high standards for him, that he should clean it the way a woman cleans, except that he's not a woman, he's a man. So I would sweep up after him and it would make him feel awful. Like, here he is, right? Here he took time to go and give me what I want. And I'm essentially telling him, it's not enough. It's not good. I don't appreciate it, right? And so when I learned about this, when I learned that we as women, we have to learn how to show up in a way that we're not criticizing. We have to be so mindful of the words that we use and the way that we interact and even the actions, right? Like, I didn't necessarily say anything. I said, thank you, but then swept after him, right? But that action told him that it wasn't good enough. And it, right? And it didn't make him feel very good at all. It made him feel not respected. It made him feel not appreciated, not like it didn't matter. Like, whatever he did didn't matter, right? And so this is something that I've learned, once I've learned this, I was like, oh my gosh, I literally need to show up differently. And oh my gosh, it's literally made the biggest transformation. It's probably, what I want to say is that this concept in itself of really stepping into feminine energy, and instead of being masculine, right? The doing, the hustle, that's masculine energy. And it's not to say that there's never a time, in our businesses where we're working, but it really, really does need to come from a feminine flow, from a space of, of being, a space where we are receiving what we want, right? And all of this can, in the context of marriage specifically, right? But in general in life, and we're going to get into this on Friday, I believe I'm going to be talking about business. I'm going to get into how this applies to business as well. But really, truly, it's stepping into our feminine energy, stepping into the fact that we as women, we're supposed to receive our desires. We're supposed to receive our needs, but we have to go about it in a way that is feminine and elegant and beautiful, right? Like, when you think of a queen, when you think of royalty, you're not thinking of someone that's demanding and rude and critical, right? You're thinking of someone that she just knows things are coming to her, right? And so she requests it, right? And so the same goes with our husbands. When we want something, when we want them to do something, the best way to go about it is to state it, like, I would love to have this, right? And then the key here, this is really, really key, is not to put an expectation of when you're going to receive it from him, right? Or how you're going to receive it, or exactly what it's going to look like. You have to allow your husband the space, right? As a separate human being, as a man, as someone who desires respect more than anything, you have to give him the space to allow him to give it to you. And I can't tell you how many times, like, I've seen this in my own marriage, I've seen this with my clients, when you step into just stating it as a fact, as a desire, right? Being vulnerable. And being vulnerable, is also part of womanhood. It's also part of feminine energy. And initially being vulnerable feels so uncomfortable, right? Because oftentimes, it just feels like we've been conditioned by society to kind of shove all the true things about ourselves down, to really hide them, to bury them in our subconscious, to kind of like not show them to the world. And really, truly, especially in marriage, it's so important. Like, your husband is literally waiting for you to be vulnerable with him, for you to be real and authentic, right? If something is painful to you that he's, you can say it in a way, where you're not criticizing, you're not complaining, you're not saying, gosh, you were so rude to me, or you're always rude to me, or how can you speak to me that way? But rather, that was really painful. That really hurt my feelings. I really would appreciate it if you can do things differently, right? Don't they sound completely different? They're taken completely different by your husband, right? Think about it if roles were reversed, right? I love to say this to people because I think that oftentimes as women, because this is like us, right, and ourselves, we have blinders on and we don't realize that we do this, really. Like, I for sure didn't notice this. I know so many of my clients that I coached through, to help transform their marriage totally didn't notice this until it was like made aware in front of their eyes, right? Think about it in reverse, right? Imagine your husband came home to you and all he did was, gosh, the dishes aren't clean, the floor is dirty, the kids are a mess, right? And all he did was like, you should have done things different, you should have been better, right? How would you take that? Would you feel great? Would you feel respected? Would you feel loved? Would you want to do different? Not really, right? And so we have to be super aware of the way that we show up in our relationship with our husband. We have to be so aware of the words that we use and the tone that we take. And again, it has to be from a state of feminine, of flow, of learning how to be. This is another aspect of feminine energies that as women, we have to learn how to be and not just do. And I know this is something that so many of us have been programmed to just do and do and do and do. And especially us as coaches and healers, we have our business, we have our marriage, we have our kids, we have so much on our plate, right? And there's just constantly more things that come at us, right? With all of these responsibilities that oftentimes it feels like, what do you mean? I have to just do and do and do and do and do. Because if I don't, I'm not going to be able to get everything done, right? Excuse me. So we have to understand that our soul literally desires for us to learn how to be. What does it mean to be? To learn how to get in touch with ourselves, to learn how to get in touch with our true desires. This in itself is takes inner work for us to look within ourselves and get to the core of it. Like, what do I really want my marriage to look like? What do I really want for my husband? What do I need to help me function better as a mother? What do I need to help me function better every day in my life, right? And that it's okay to take a break. It's okay to learn how to just be with yourself and do less. And what's very fascinating is that the more you learn how to be, the more you learn how to be in touch with yourself, and the more you learn how to take breaks, take a nap if you need it. It's very, I took this program a while back, and the coach, one of the things she taught was like, take a nap. If you're tired and you've got young kids or whatever you've got on your plate, it doesn't matter, right? You're tired, like nobody says you can't take a nap. Who says, right? And I remember it was this aha moment, this like light bulb was like, oh my gosh, I really could do that. I've really embraced that. Obviously for me, it's not something that I necessarily do every day, unless it's like, depending on, actually, I would say depending on the stage of life. When I was pregnant with my third, I definitely did. Yes, naps, right? Yes, you are biased, Miranda. I love it. Miranda's an amazing coach who teaches people how to sleep. And I absolutely love that. Yes. And naps, and literally, like, it refreshes you. And when you get up, you have more energy, you have more mental clarity, you feel better, right? And this is what we're supposed to be doing as women. We're not supposed to be just doing and hustling and giving, right? The giving energy is actually masculine. It's very interesting, because I remember, like, always feeling, I always felt like giving was something that we're all supposed to do. And of course, we as women give all the time. This is not to say we're not supposed to give, right? But our primary role really within marriage, within a relationship, really is to learn how to be the receiver and to learn how to accept things graciously. Like, if your husband does something for you that is, out of kindness, out of the goodness of his heart, and let's say he gives you a gift and it's not something you wanted, right? We should still show up graciously because he took the effort. He went and bought you this gift, right? So thank him. Be grateful. Like, even if you don't like it, even if it's not what you wanted, show him that you care. Show him that the fact that he gave to you, the fact that he literally took he used his masculine energy, what his soul is requiring him to do, what his soul wants him to do, and he gave it to you, the most special person in his life. He needs to see that you appreciate that. He needs to see that you respect the fact that he put all that in, right? All that effort in, right? And so that's, it's really, really important that we learn how to be gracious receivers and appreciate things when people do that. Another thing that falls under this is accepting compliments. How many times has your spouse given you a compliment and you kind of brushed it off? Anyone do that? I know I used to do that. It's really, really important to learn that when our spouses, are giving us a compliment, they mean it from the bottom of their hearts. They're not saying, like, if your husband tells you that you're beautiful, right? Gosh, he really believes that. He didn't just, he married you for a reason, right? He didn't just say that because, he wants to flatter you, right? He truly means it. And to really understand that when they give us compliments, it's from a real genuine place. It's funny. I think that men especially are more, they're very literal and very straightforward and so when they give a compliment, that's literally exactly what they mean. They don't mean anything different. I remember I used to do this all the time, like pull apart his compliments and kind of like, he meant this and he meant, and I remember my husband saying to me once, he goes, "We're really simple, man. We don't have any exterior motives. We don't have any like hidden reasons or things or anything. It's like, we're so straightforward." And when we understand, and I think that this is really the key to really having a beautiful relationship, to really feeling connected to one another, to really feeling the love, feeling the respect. It's really, truly about understanding him and understanding yourself. I mean, really, I would say it always starts with understanding yourself, right? Because when we understand ourselves, when we're able to understand our brains, when we're able to understand how we work, how our soul works, what we're meant to be, how we're meant to show up in the world, how we're meant to show up in our marriage, it becomes much easier for us to then understand him and say, gosh, what is it about him that, what's he trying to say to me? What's, if he comes home and if he's snapping at you because he's in a bad mood, to understand, like, to kind of give yourself a moment to pause and say, what happened? Why is he acting this way? Maybe he had a really bad day at work. Maybe his boss screamed at him. Maybe he lost money. Maybe, like, there's so much. We have to understand that our spouses are also humans. They're also people that go through the same life experiences that we do. I mean, not the same, right? Because we're different, right? And actually, it's important to understand that they have a whole separate life to us, right? Obviously, we're in a relationship, and obviously we build a family together. We built a family together, but they go to work and they have a whole different life there that we may not know every detail about. We may not understand every detail about, right? And that's gonna affect, sometimes it may show, they may get frustrated because of something that happened. And it's important to understand that, they're human just like us, and to, instead of judge and feel criticized and get straight into like, oh my gosh, I'm getting triggered, right? And triggers are normal, they happen, but the idea is for us to rewire our brain so that we're not triggered anymore. So that instead of going straight to the trigger, to start saying, or if you're just starting this work and you've never done, you might get triggered a lot more. And so what I'm saying is I don't want you to judge yourself and say, gosh, but I'm getting triggered. Miriam said not to. No. Like, it's totally understandable if you're still at the point where you're getting a lot of triggers. When you're first starting out, you're going to have that. But when you get triggered, to take a step back in your mind and say, what's going on here, right? Is it me? Am I showing up in my feminine energy? Am I showing up kindly? Am I showing up with respect? Am I appreciating all that he's giving me? If it wasn't my spouse and it wasn't so close to my heart, would I be that insulted, right? And to really instead ask him, hey, what's going on? You're not usually like this. Did something happen at work? And really I find that that men really, truly, they need a support system. They need, their wife, they need us to show up as their support, as their advocate, as their lover who really genuinely cares about everything that's going on with them as well. And when we're able to show that for them, I'm telling you, when you are able to show up in that way for them, they learn how to show up that way for you. And obviously it's going to be slightly different than the way you do it, right? Because he's a man and he's different. But I'm telling you that the more that you're going to do this, the more that you show him how much you respect him, how much you care about him, how much you love him, even when he's not showing up at his best, even when he's not performing, the way that you want him to in every area or whatever it may be, right? That's feeling challenged. When you show up that way anyways, it really, really shifts the dynamic. Excuse me a minute. I've got a pretty bad cold, so you'll have to bear with me. Okay, some practical tools that I really want to share with you that also will literally shift your marriage for the better in so many ways. Okay, so some practical tools that to really help your husband feel like he's loved, like he's cherished, like he's cared for, and he's respected. When he comes home, at the end of the day from work, greet him at the door. I know this is something that might feel very old school. This might be very old school advice, but I'm telling you, all it takes is 2 minutes, a smile on your face, being happy to see him, that will make him feel so good. It makes him feel like he is important to you. He comes first in your life. It's so important, especially when you have children and you're a mom and you're taking care of your kids and there's so much going on, it's so important for your husband to know and feel like he is your number one priority. It's very fascinating. I actually learned that you are supposed to actually put your marriage before your children, meaning, and not that you should ignore your children, God forbid, but meaning that when it comes to the areas that you're focusing on your growth, you should be focusing first on your marriage, because your children need to see a strong marriage. They need to see parents that love each other, that are there for each other, that support each other. And it really is what actually gives your children that sense of safety and that sense of security, right? Because truly, if when a marriage is not doing great, the kids are not doing great either. It's really, really painful for them and difficult to see the two people that they love the most in the world fighting and arguing and not at peace with one another. So it's really, really important that we focus first and foremost on our husbands and show them how important they are. And so literally greeting them at the door, just like, hey, how was your date? Like, it doesn't need to be like 20 minutes, right? It's really not that difficult and doesn't take a whole lot of time or mental space. It's really just about making that effort, right? And so that they see, Miranda says, totally agree, show children healthy and happy examples of relationships. Exactly. Because more than anything, what we want for our children is for them to grow up and them to be able to create their healthy relationships. And the only way that they can really do that the only way that we can set them up for that, right, is for them to see that. It's for us to model it for them. Children really learn most by what they see. And so that is really, really, just such a big difference. It makes such a difference in your kids' lives. And when the kids leave the nest, it's back to you. Oh my gosh, I love that you brought that up, Miranda. When your kids leave the nest, it's back to you two. You don't want to be like strangers. Oh my gosh, it's so true. Oh my gosh, like I love that you brought that point up. I actually know of a couple who, their children all got married, and they said to us, they went on a trip together, and the wife said to me, we're getting to relearn each other. And I remember thinking like, gosh, I don't want to be that couple that like the kids leave and all of a sudden I'm like, oh wait, it's you. What do we do? How do we interact with one another? How do we find this space together again? Like, no. I want to be that couple where we married the kids off together. We've had fun together throughout the years, and we know how to be with each other when they leave the nest, and we know how to continue and nourish our relationship, and just, continue on our lives. Like it should be a continuation, and a beautiful, continuation of what has been all the years, right? Some other very practical tools. What I really want to say is, and this is something that I remember, the one client specifically that was really, really on the verge of divorce. Thankfully, I was so blessed to really help quite a few women through really transforming their marriages. But this one woman that comes to mind often, because of, just where she was at and how much she grew, was just so absolutely amazing for me as a coach to really watch, to see how she did so much inner work and made so many amazing transformations, and to really heal her marriage. I remember this being a very, very strong point, that when I shared with her, it was like, wow, like it really, really shifted a lot for her. And the point is to really spend time at night with each other. And again, like this, it doesn't, like, everything that I say are things that I want you to understand, they're things that can be implemented in your life in a really easy way, in a way that feels good. I'm not suggesting that you then add on hours to your day that don't exist, right? Spending 5 minutes at night together before you go to bed, just asking him about his day, just discussing about your day, right? The trials, the tribulations, whatever it is that happened in your day. Share the beautiful things, whatever it is. And again, this doesn't have to be specifically when you go to bed. I just, practically for those of us who have children, it's the easiest time when the kids are asleep, right? But really spend those few minutes together, and you're going to see that literally, like, all that your marriage, I'm not going to say all, right? Because of course there's nuances and there's other aspects to it of as well, right? There's so many aspects to marriage, and everyone's marriage looks different and everyone's challenged in different ways. But one of I would say literally the biggest transformation that people have in their marriage is when you just start to spend more time together. Like when you were dating, think back to it, right? When you were dating, you were spending time together. You were having fun together. You were having so many beautiful moments. It was just enjoyment, right? Just because you're married and you have children and you have so many responsibilities, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be doing the same things again. I know it's harder, of course, and it takes consciousness, it takes an intention, it takes being aware on a conscious level, like, I need to give to my marriage, I need to put effort in, I need to spend time with my husband. And you can bring back that spark. You can, and not only, I think the most beautiful part about this is that not only do you bring back the spark that you had when you were dating, but it's even deeper, because when you live your life with somebody and you've spent years together, right? I can speak for myself. I'm married for 10 years, so I can only speak, up to 10 years. I could say that, gosh, like you know each other so well, and the love that you have for one another only grows and only deepens and is so beautiful, because you've brought children into this world together and you're raising them together, because you have gone through challenges together and you've had to be the support system for one another, because you yourselves have been challenged in your marriage. It literally only makes you stronger. So I want you to know that if right now things are feeling a little bit challenging, feeling like they're not exactly where you want them to be, this is a blessing in disguise, because your marriage on the other side of doing this work is going to be so incredible. It's going to be so beautiful, so much. And I want to say even more beautiful than you could have imagined, like really, truly. When you do this work, your husband starts to show up in ways for you that you could not have imagined. He starts to give to you in ways that you never would have thought he would have ever before, just because he starts to recognize that you appreciate it and you care about him and you respect him. Another thing is to really be very, very mindful and very careful not to say anything negative about him in front of your children or in front of strangers. There's nothing more humiliating to anyone, really, than being criticized in front of other people, right? And oftentimes women do this without realizing, right? It's so subconscious. And that's why I feel like it's important that we talk about this. It's important that we bring an awareness to this, because obviously nobody's trying to degrade their husband. Nobody's trying to be mean. No one's trying, but it's kind of just things that happen, right? Because of the way that we are wired and the way that men are wired, these things kind of happen sometimes. And that's why it's so important that we bring it to our consciousness and we bring it to our awareness. Another thing that will literally transform your marriage in the biggest way possible is to make sure that you are going on dates. Okay. I know that as life gets complicated and busy, and it oftentimes feels really hard. But what I want to say is, especially if you are feeling challenged right now in your marriage and things are not where you want it to be, this in itself is literally what's going to heal it and what's going to change it. It's when you choose to take time out of your day and say, we're going to go out together. We're going to go have fun together. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter where you go. You can go grocery shopping. You can go to the park. You can go to a restaurant, whatever makes the two of you feel good. But what I want to say is, like, do this, like, don't make this about where you go and who's choosing, and make it simple, make it easy. If he doesn't want to go where you want to go, like, it doesn't matter. I really believe that a huge part of marriage and relationships in general is not getting stuck on the nitty gritty, not getting stuck on, like, I want this and you want that, and let's argue and fight over it, and gosh, you don't see things my way and I don't want, like, think about it like this. Is it going to matter in 10 years from now? Is it going to matter in a year from now? Oh, he didn't go on this date. Like, he didn't go with me here. Find something that the two of you enjoy together, right? And sometimes what I'll say is, like, if this is not something you've done, you might have to use your feminine energy and your elegance and your vulnerability and share with him. If say this is something he's not open to and he feels like, gosh, why do we need to go? Like, we're just, we're always together. We're always spending time together. You can share with him, like, gosh, it would mean so much to me. I would really appreciate it. I love spending time with you. It really fills my cup up, right? This is what I mean when I say be vulnerable. Share the truth. Share the truth of, like, what what it's going to do for you. How, it might be difficult for you that if you don't go, because this is something that fills you up, that makes you feel good. It's gonna help the two of us feel better, right? Like, there's so many ways to approach this in a way that is, you're using your feminine energy and your elegance, and you're being royal about it, and rather than criticizing and gosh, like, even though, like, no, you're not going to go on a date with me, even though, like, this is what we need, and right, that doesn't sound very good, right? And that just leads to an argument. That just leads to one, fighting with each other and getting upset, and both of you feeling not good, right? And so make it easy. That's what I want to say. Make it easy, and use that time to not talk about responsibility, to not talk about your kids, to not talk about your finances, to not talk about anything that is really challenging, but just have fun together. Just talk about what's going on for one another, right? Like, just take an hour, 2 hours to just enjoy and relax. And what I want to say is that if it's very challenging for you to go out on a date because you can't find a babysitter, or things are tough financially, or whatever it may be, it's still really, really important and really crucial that you find a way to make it happen. So you can have a date at home, right? You can both sit in the backyard. I know my husband and I did this once. Actually, I would say it was during Corona. We couldn't go anywhere. And so we kind of just, the kids went to sleep. We went out in the backyard, and we had a great time together. There's so many ways to get creative and really make sure to make this happen. Another thing that I kind of touched on, I touched on a few times, is the importance of showing our husbands respect. It's so, like, men need respect like oxygen. Like, just like our soul desires that our soul, like, yeah, it desires things. And this is what we are meant to bring, we are meant to have. Men need respect. They need to know how much you appreciate them. They need to know that you respect what they do for a living. They need to know that you respect the people that they are. And really showing them that, and showing that in front of your children. I think one of the biggest gifts you can give to your marriage, you can give to your husband, you can give to your children, is to compliment him in front of your kids. Like, tell them, say things like, oh my gosh, isn't he the best dad ever? Like, oh my gosh, he did such amazing work. He's making a difference. Gosh, he's saving people's lives. This is something I tell my kids because my husband works in healthcare. Whatever it is that you find about him that you appreciate, let him know. Make him feel like just like you're royalty, and just like you're meant to be treated like a queen, treat him like a king. Treat him like, show him, give him little things to show him that you appreciate him. I remember once way back, we had this teacher who was in her 70s, I believe. Maybe she was, I'm guessing that she was in her 70s. She may have been older, I'm not sure. But I remember that she told us, like, she would write little notes for her husband in his lunchbox. Whatever lunch she packed for him. And she said, like, it added this spark, it added this beautiful, something to the relationship that, it just really made a difference. And so what I want to encourage you is, like, find things that matter to you, that matter to your husband, and give them to him. Little things will make such a difference. And this is going to change, depending on what phase of life you're going through. If you're, I know, Tara mentioned that she has got a little baby. And so I know that that's going to be a really challenging time, when you've got a really little one. And so it might not be making him lunches. It might be something else. It might be just giving him a compliment, telling him how much you appreciate that he's taking care of your baby, right? For others, it's going to be different things. It really, truly is just about, just like when you were dating and you wanted to get to know him and you wanted to get to appreciate all the things about him. He's the same man. And not only is he the same man, but he's a better version. I'm telling you, it's just about you changing your lens. If you're seeing him and saying, like, oh no, when we were dating, he was so amazing. He was so affectionate. He was so romantic. He was so kind. And now he's not like that. He's like, and you have all these I'm telling you, he's still that same person. You've just chosen to focus on all the negative. So change your lens. Start to look at all the positive inside of him and watch how things change for you. It's going to be such a big, big change for you when you start to notice that all the things that he had when you were dating are still there. Yeah. So that's something else that is super, super important. I would love to hear from all of you. For those of you that are watching live, watching in replay, I'd love to hear from you if you want to share with me things that you're feeling challenged, questions that you have about marriage. Because I would, more than anything, what I want this retreat to be about is to be about you. I want to make sure that you get your questions answered. You're able to step into the transformation that you want. And so if anyone, would like to comment, if you're welcome to comment on the video itself, and I'm happy to respond, or you're welcome to private message me, because I would absolutely love to hear from you, to make sure that I am able to give you the professional advice that you deserve to really transform whatever is going on for you. The basis of all of this is truly show up as a woman, show up in your feminine power, show up in your feminine energy. Let go of the masculine energy, of the hustle, of the need to constantly meet your husband where he's at, right? Meet him where he's at. Appreciate him for who he is. Look for the good in him. I'm telling you, it's going to have such a massive, massive ripple effect. And what I want to share is, I guess another point is that, if you're feeling like there's something really big and really that he is, I don't know, say your husband is addicted to something that is very painful for you, or say there's something else really big. What I want to share with you is that if you take all of these tools and you implement them, I'm telling you, those things are going to feel so much less painful. You're going to understand how to accept him, because the reality is that we're never always on the same exact page, like in terms of growth, right? And especially us as coaches and healers, like we dive into personal growth so much, right? And I'm definitely talking for myself here, that oftentimes it feels like, gosh, depending on where you're at in your personal growth journey and in your coaching journey, it might feel like, gosh, I put so much work and look at what he's doing. He's doing a whole lot of nothing, right? And it's really important to understand that he's doing his own personal growth. Just staying with you, and I say this, just staying with you takes personal growth for him. And I say this not that you're a bad woman, God forbid, or not that you don't deserve it or anything like that. But my point is that marriage is hard. It takes work. It's beautiful. It's amazing. It can be it should be the most incredible thing in the world for you, right? But it does take work. And so it's important for you to understand that, to not look at yourself and say, gosh, I'm so ahead of him. Look at where he's at. I've done all this and look at him, he's down there. But instead to recognize that he's not a coach and he's not a healer, unless he is. But I'm assuming that he's not, because it's not often that couples are both doing the same work, right? And to really understand that he really truly is working on himself. I've heard this many times from from women saying to me, like, gosh, my husband's not doing any work. It's all on me. I have to change the marriage. I have to do everything. I'm doing all this personal growth and he's not. And what I want to say to you is so many times we dug deeper and realized that he really is doing a lot of work. He really is. When he shows up, to help you with the kids, when he shows up to provide for you financially, when he shows up in all these ways, that's because he loves you and because he cherishes you. And that's his way of fighting for you. That's his way of showing you that he appreciates you. That's his way, right? Because his way is giving. Okay, I'm gonna I'm gonna read your comments later, Miranda, and respond to them because they're pretty long and they're not coming up fully. So I don't want to I don't want to botch it up. But yeah, it's really really important just to understand that, like, communication should be done in a way that is kind and respectful and appreciative, right? Like, it's literally what I want to say is, like, at the heart of everything, if I had to put a one-liner on marriage, like, show up, treat him the way you want him to treat you, right? The same respect, the same kindness, the same love, and you're gonna see it's reciprocated, because people in relationships, people act with you the way that you act with them. The way that you show up is the way that they're gonna respond. And then there's another point, is that we're an average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. There's a study on this, and I don't remember who's done this study. You're welcome to look it up, but this is a very, very fascinating point that I learned about once, that really we're an average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. And you and your husband spend so much time together. And so you're really feeding off one another. And so if you want him to show up the way, in a different way, or the way that you would love for him to be, you need to show up that way too. And so I'm going to leave off with that. One other point, actually, I really want to make, because I think this is super, super important, is that all of this is obviously meant to help you uplift your marriage, meant to help you transform your marriage. But more than anything, I want you to take the points that resonate with you, the points that your intuition is telling you, yes, what Miriam said is going to make a difference in my marriage, yes, and use that. But if there is anything that feels like it just doesn't align with you, it's not right for your relationship, please scrap it. What I want to say is, like, when I first got married, gosh, I can't remember. The advice that I got, so much advice that was just so off for my marriage. It was either outdated or just didn't work for us, so much of that. I really, really learned that I had to filter everything. And this goes in general in life, like, put everything through the filter and the lens of, like, is this right for me? This professional is suggesting this. This mentor, this coach is suggesting that. Does it sit right with me? Is this what's going to help transform my marriage? And if it will, then implement it. But if it feels totally wrong, then please don't. One of the pieces of advice that I actually got from my own mother, she would say this all the time throughout the years. And when I got married, it totally didn't sit right with me. But one of the things she always said was, don't go to bed angry with each other, because, it's better to stay up and communicate. And for me, I remember when I got married thinking, I went into my relationship when my husband and I started dating thinking, like, okay, I'm going to have to communicate every time he upsets me and every time. And I realized really quickly that for us, it just didn't matter. Half of the things that I was upset about were things that he had no idea. He literally had no idea. And I realized I was just going to create friction between the two of us. And so I really, really did not go that route. And especially, I found that, sometimes I got upset and I would sleep on it. We didn't talk about it. And I'd sleep on it. And I'd wake up in the morning and I'd be totally fine. Like, not upset anymore. And so really, it's also, a lot of it's also about knowing yourself. And this comes into the feminine energy as well, to learn how to be, to learn how to trust your intuition, to really trust your gut and figure out what's right for you. And so that's really the last piece I really want to leave you with, is that there's so much advice out there. There's so much, really, really, it's important for you to take what works for you and really, if something feels not right, please do not do it, because you don't want to bring yourself into the opposite of what you want, right? You want to create this transformation. You want to feel better. You want to have a strong relationship with one another. And more than anything, you need to feed your marriage every day, right? Just like the total self-care, you need to show up for your husband. You need to have a good time together. And again, this is something beautiful. This is something that makes you feel good, right? And so all the work, and this is why I love to say, like, people say that inner work is so hard, and some of you may be feeling that way. But the way I personally like to see it, and I want to give you this lens, because I think it's very helpful, is that when you think of the inner work and think of the gift that you're going to get, think about how good you're going to feel when you step into it. It's almost like a no-brainer. Like, why wouldn't I do that, right? And so that's really what this is really all about. It's like, let's feel good every single day. Let's feel connected. Let's have that amazing marriage. Let's continue to feed that marriage so that we have many beautiful, happy years together. And I feel cherished and loved and respected and everything that I really want out of my marriage. I wanted to let everybody know that I am opening up the doors to the Inner Wealth Mastermind for coaches and healers. This is going to be an incredible program where we are going to focus on helping you learn how to step into balancing everything that you've got on your plate, your business, your marriage, your motherhood, your internal state, and really, we're gonna dive into total self-care. We're gonna dive into mindfulness. We're gonna dive into really making sure that you're able to implement all the transformations that you need to really create the change. Because oftentimes we hear people speak, we hear mentors, we hear coaches, and it's great advice, and we take it in, and then, the inspiration, if it doesn't lead to action, doesn't necessarily end up bringing the transformation that we want. And so what I love to say is this when I work with my clients, when clients join my programs, what I love to say is they literally go from A to Z, right? Like that woman that was on the verge of divorce, that she literally went from, I'm going to divorce him, to I'm staying married forever, and so grateful that I was able to save my marriage, right? Or, just many of my clients that have really gone from wherever they were. And you don't have to be at the point where things are breaking down completely. You could just feel a little challenged in some ways. But what I want to say is that when you step into this transformation, when you start to give to yourself, when you start to be mindful, when you start to feed your marriage and focus on your motherhood and live, run your business from a state of feminine flow and following your intuition and doing everything that you need, you feel good. You feel good every day. And we're also really going to focus a lot on the inner work that leads to the outer transformation, the inner work that's going to bring you the sense of inner peace, that's going to help you feel whole within yourself, help you learn how to love yourself, how to love your life, how to accept all parts of you, how to really stay calm when there's chaos in your life, how to really remain above the challenges. I actually love to say that challenges we're meant to move through. We're not meant to get stuck in. We're not meant to live in. We're meant to move through. It's something that we go through, right? Because it's something where there's constantly things coming up. And so we move through and we get to the transformation. And then, we move through the next one. But while creating all these beautiful moments every day, beautiful moments in your life, beautiful relationships, making sure that you're feeding the most important parts of your life, so that when you're 90 years old, you look back at your life and you say, gosh, I lived a full life. I lived a meaningful life. I lived a life of purpose. I really was able to create what it is that I really wanted in my life. And really, that's what this is really going to be all about. I'm going to be dropping the link a bit later today for those of you who would like to join me on this 10-week transformation. This is going to be absolutely incredible. It's going to be a culmination of everything that I am talking about in this retreat, plus. There's going to be, for those of you that want to know what the mastermind looks like on the inside, there's going to be weekly calls where we get on and we discuss everything, and I coach you through it, making sure that, you are moving forward in all of these directions, how to be present with your children. I'm going to talk more about that tomorrow. You're also going to have access to me 24/6 because I do keep Shabbat. But you will have Voxer access to me throughout the entire process. And we're also going to really connect as a group, to really, really step into this transformation together. And I think that what's most powerful is when you're able to step into coaching in a group setting, because it literally, like the friends that you end up making when you're in a group program of similar minded people, the transformation goes way beyond anything you ever imagined you could have even stepped into, because you're kind of all feeding off one another and encouraging one another and stepping into all of it together, getting insights from one another. So this is really, really, really exciting, and I'm beyond excited to be offering it to coaches and healers specifically, because there's so much, like I'm going to speak for myself, but I know all of you, as coaches and healers we have stepped into so much transformation already. We focus on personal development, and yet, this is really just like the next layer, the high level, the stepping into a higher level of consciousness, stepping into being intentional in the areas that matter most, right? This is literally this is your life. This is what matters more. I even like to say, this is what matters even more than your business, even more than the transformation that you're making in your clients' lives, which is amazing and incredible. And I'm like the biggest cheerleader for every coach and healer out there, literally. I'm so honored every time to meet another coach or healer that is making a difference in the world and shining your light and transforming your clients' lives. But this is really the gold. This is the abundance. It's not the clients, it's not the money, it's not the business. This, living the life that you want, right? Soaking up all of the most amazing experiences that you can in your life, so that you're feeling really good. And not only is this the goal, but this actually fuels your business in an even bigger way and helps you really skyrocket, your success, and as well as, helps you really, helps you coach your clients and heal and in an even better way. Like the more transformations that we as coaches step into, as coaches and healers, right? The more we're able to guide our clients and really make an even bigger transformation in their lives. So I'm really excited. I'm going to be dropping the link later today. And if any of you have any questions about the program, if any of you are wondering anything, if you're wondering is this going to work for me? Do I have the time for it? Whatever it may be, you're more than welcome to private message me. I would absolutely love to hear from you. I'd absolutely love to talk to you through this. If you would like to speak to me, I also do have some availability to speak to you, so you can book a slot on my calendar, and I am looking forward to showing up tomorrow and talking about motherhood. All right, take care, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your day.